town of the good, the bad, and the weird. You either live by the gun, or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And today we have decided to go back to a video game movie adaptation. We are going to one that's a little less pointy than the original game it comes from.
Boy, we didn't waste any time there, did we?
Nope, we're wanting, no. Nope, we are definitely raiding some tombs today.
Oh boy.
Not another name of another movie that's surprisingly longer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no, I originally, like everyone else, assumed that this movie was just called Tomb Raider, but it's not.
Nope.
We're reviewing Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't realize that either until I was typing out or getting information together for this movie.
Same, and I think the reason is because the movie poster for this has the Lara Croft portion labeled and sized how you would normally have like a starring leads role, like starring Tom Cruise.
Yep.
It's like starring Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
Yeah. It's not a good poster design. It's
a terrible poster design.
It reminds me just back when I was doing poster reviews for part of this year. It's heavily focused on certain assets.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it because this movie is as well.
Yeah, or it's mainly star power is the asset I'm talking about. Get your mind out of the gutter, Chris.
I will not. The movie itself would like you to be in and live amongst the gutters.
Yes. So, Tomb Raider is about, Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Thank you. There is a difference.
Is about a Tomb Raider named Lara Croft who must save the world from the Illuminati.
Whoa. Not gonna lie. I am normally very fond of not only bad video game adaptations, but also silly adventure action sort of styled movies. So I, of course, have already seen this movie once, but I hadn't seen it in a really long time.
Same. Kind of. I hadn't seen it in a long time up until a couple years ago when I did my rant on what I was noticing and changing in video game movie adaptations, especially with like Uncharted having just recently come out at that point.
Yes. A good comparison.
Yes. But real quick, I do want to go to IMDb's synopsis because normally I don't read those, but I do enjoy this one.
Yeah, because boy, the plot of this movie's a little crazy.
Video game adventurer Lara Croft comes to life in a movie where she races against time and villains to recover powerful ancient artifacts.
Wow. I mean, they're not technically wrong.
No, but I love that they start off video game adventurer Lara Croft.
Granted, okay, for when this movie came out, which was 2001, having it start with video game character Lara Croft does make more sense than it does nowadays.
Yeah. Like,
Tomb Raider, Lara Croft has at this point been added, changed into just about every genre physically possible. She's got a comic book, she's got actual books, we've had movies, and not just this one. This one got a sequel, then there was the reboot one. The games have been released from Dreamcast all the way up to PS4. They're talking about having new, Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 remastered, giving them the old Spyro spit and shine, slapping those bad boys out next year. So, she has become quite the icon. We know who Lara Croft is now.
Yeah.
2001, unless you were a video game person, you weren't necessarily, super familiar with her.
Exactly, and I'll get into where the world was when this movie came out.
Yes, yes.
So, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, which will probably end up being referred to as just Tomb Raider.
Yeah, it's so much shorter.
Directed by Simon West and written by Sarah B. Cooper, Mike Werb, and Michael Collery. Stars Angelina Jolie, John Voight, Ian Glenn, and a very much younger Daniel Craig.
But it's a good-looking Daniel Craig, let me say.
Yeah. One interesting little bit of tidbit is it is father and daughter. I did not realize that.
Yeah. It's like a little fun Easter egg.
Yeah, Jolie and John Voight are daughter and father. It's weird.
I mean, it's hard to necessarily directly see the family resemblance
No.
in this movie anyway.
And it's also weird trying to take him seriously in this movie, having just recently watched Anaconda, where
Yeah.
his facial expressions are something else.
I also think that just this movie in general has a lot of faces that you are going to recognize as other characters. Example being James Bond is in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Delightful, love it, am a big fan. However, like, he at this point is just James Bond. So it's a little bit, and he, like, the role is just a little bit close to James Bond character that it's a little hard not to just see James Bond in a Tomb Raider film.
But not the good version of James Bond. He's like the anti-Bond a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Not really an anti-Bond, but like semi-bad Bond. Like if he was a little bit too into the bad boy stuff.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's not lie to ourselves. The reason anyone is watching this movie isn't for the plot. It's for the wink plot.
The anime plot.
It is for the anime plot. And the writers and directors, and honestly, even Angela Jolie, knew this full well. Like, everyone on every interview that I could find was like, yes, we are aware that this movie is bad, but you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Yeah. I think Jolie says in quite a few of the interviews, like, I wanted her to be a badass, but I wanted also to show off her voluptuous and curvy sides. It's like, well, you didn't have to try hard to show that off.
Well, we say that now. And I was having this conversation with several of my friends earlier this week when I was rewatching this movie, like, pulling out the old-time friends, be like, hey, when we watched this, do you remember this? And a lot of my friends who had played the game when this came out and were, like, fans of the game first, not like me, going in movie first and then games, a lot of them remember there being this big discourse on whether or not she would be a good Lara Croft. Because people didn't think she was curvaceous enough to play Lara Croft. People didn't think she was big-chested enough to play Lara Croft.
I mean, it's just the expectations of video games or anime versus real life, what reality is.
For sure, but apparently this, like, thought process was, was loudly spoken enough that, like, even the actress herself was like, yes, I'm aware that technically, like, the game has listed the, of course, cup size of Lara Croft, which, why wouldn't it? But she's like, yes, you know, according to the game, I am one cup size down, but guys, that's what push-up bras are for. Like, don't worry, you'll get what you want.
They won't be pointy, but they'll be out there.
Yes. And so, like, this was apparently a big enough complaint that people, when this came out, were like, I don't know, I don't see her as being Lara Croft. But now, when I'm, like, re-talking with friends who, like, weren't necessarily into the games or still aren't, a lot of them are like, oh, I only can imagine her as Lara Croft. Like, to me, that is her.
Well, and that's the director's idea as well. That was the only Lara Croft for him, so.
Which is probably for the best, because I saw the list of actresses that, like, were very briefly considered if she had said no. Because there's always a backup list.
Not to the director.
No.
To West, he wasn't gonna even do it if she wouldn't join.
Which, good for him. There was a list, of course, because this movie suffered from producer syndrome. Real bad. Well,
we'll get into that in just a second, because I do want to bring up a little bit about where we were at even before the movie started, because it does...
That would help, because while she is a big name now, 2001, what was happening? What was going on?
Oh, we'll get there. But before all that, I do want to get into my resources for the episode.
I guess.
Commentary by director Simon West, featurettes from the cast and crew on the DVD, which decent amount of interviews, but
yeah,
just,
not too bad.
And then Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the official film companion by Alan Jones.
I'm honestly shocked and amazed there's a whole ass book on this. But good for them.
You wanna know how I found the book?
I Google, I assume.
I was on the Internet Archive trying to find a game manual for Tomb Raider 1 to read any little backstory if I could find anything on it.
Oh, yeah,
and that's how I found the book.
That, honestly, that tracks. Because when the game first came out, yeah, that would have been how you found anything about these characters, but you had to read the little slip that came with the game.
Exactly. And so, we'll set the scene a little bit, because we're still in the early days of video game adaptations.
Ooh, and they're usually real rough.
Yes. Prior to Lara Croft Tomb Raider, we only had 5 video game movie adaptations. We had Super Mario Bros., Double Dragon, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Okay, out of that list, I would say that the top tier one would be Mortal Kombat, unfortunately.
I am going to have to go with Double Dragon myself.
It's a fun one, but honestly, none of them are, like, good movies.
I'll argue, I think Double Dragon is actually a pretty... For the era of what they were trying to adapt, like games that didn't really have stories or anything to them.
That's true. There is no plot.
Yeah,
There's just concept.
We're talking all the games that they adapted were either side-scroller beat-em-ups, fighting games, or just a side-scroller platformer. So there's not like much of a story to it. So
no, the only one that had any real backstory would have been the Mario one, and honestly, they didn't really care when they remade that.
No, not at all. But Double Dragon is fun. T-1000 with the heavily frosted tips.
Yeah, no,
Alyssa Milano.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. But again, none of these are like award-winning movies.
No. As well, before this movie was even made, there were rumors that there was going to be a 3D animated Lara Croft movie in the works, but that was the producer or the core design studio, the people who made the original games, weren't too happy didn't like the idea of what they were trying to promote with the video or the animated version.
Honestly, for what we had at the time, I'm kind of glad it didn't exist, because all I can really imagine is like those Final Fantasy like fan-made movies back in the day. And while I'm impressed at what we were capable of doing on middle school computers, none of them were good.
Yeah, no, not at all. But even from the historical context and what made Lara Croft an icon before the movie was made, back in 1996, when the first Tomb Raider game came out, the landscape was drastically different.
Oh, yeah. Jesus, yeah.
Primarily focused towards male protagonists or an audience of boys.
Oh, heavily.
Even though, like, the first female playable character had appeared in the now lost 1977 arcade game Score. And other than, like, tie-in games, like, to Alien and a bunch of other movie properties.
Sure. Probably
the largest female icon that I'd stretch it is Miss Pac-Man.
I mean, she did have her own arcade case. So, like, yeah, but, like...
Technically.
She's not, like... I mean, yes, there was a story to go along with Miss Pac-Man, I know. But, like, if you're just walking into our arcade, you didn't get to read that little fun bit. It's not like we had Google in our pocket like now.
Yeah, or like Samus from Metroid.
Yeah.
They didn't have the same iconic because you didn't know they were a girl until... And I say girl because I learned recently...
Yeah, tell me.
Samus is like 14, 15
in
the original.
A child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, that was something that the director was very vocal about even when making this movie, is he strongly felt that Lara Croft in video game, but also in this movie, was going to really be paving the, like, avenue for strong female leads.
Yeah. And even though, like, Final Fantasy VI had Terra in it, like, there wasn't anything like this on the global scale, because when Core Design Limited dropped Tomb Raider in 1996, this is where she becomes a big deal, because she pretty much was the female Indiana Jones.
Hell yeah, she was.
And as sexy as them triangle titties could have been back then.
And we make fun of it now, but, like, honestly, like, especially watching the new trailers and stuff for the, like, polishing up version that's coming out, it really still doesn't look that bad for how old and how few triangles we had to deal with. I mean, you understand fully that this is a female character. You got the big boobs idea across, which honestly was the inspiration for many a person. And overall, the gameplay was good enough that it went on to, pave the industry.
I actually have never played a Tomb Raider. If I ever did, it was like a demo disc or something.
You must have duck dodged and fucking weaved your way around being able to not play a single one of them. There is so fucking many of them.
I was in a Crash Bandicoot and Pokemon.
Oh, well, that explains it.
But fun bit of trivia about the game. Originally, Tomb Raider's protagonist was going to be a male, but they changed it to be a woman to avoid Indiana Jones lawsuits.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
As well, trying to stray away from the macho stereotype, because at the time, like, people like Schwarzenegger were the big action heroes. We had Predator, we had Terminator.
Yes.
Like, they were the big, bulky dudes, but they wanted something athletic. And something showing about both video games and movies, how they've been tied together for a long time. Adrian Smith, the operational director of Core Design Limited, stated that the idea was to create a computer game that was like a movie.
Cute, because this movie is kind of, sort of, if you squint, like a video game.
Very much so. And what I do think is great about it, too, is that they never intended for the game to be revolutionary. They didn't intend for Lara Croft to blow up the way she did.
Well, they did put big old tits on her, so I'm surprised, honestly.
They just wanted to make something cool and interesting. Hey, Crash Bandicoot's first girlfriend had big old titties, too.
Okay, you bring up a good point, though, because during this wave of entertainment, honestly, like, if it was something that exploded, if it was something that went fast, and if it was something that was fighting, it was thought to be for boys. And whether or not you think it is good and healthy, for boys meant girls have long eyelashes and tits, and boys are going to be going fast, blowing stuff up, and be spies or some variation on spy, right? Like,
or classic warrior.
Yeah. So, like, pretty much this dominated the field. All of, not just video games, board games, all of the toys did this, all of the movies, all of the TV shows. Like, there was a really hard and dry cut line between what was boy entertainment and what was girl entertainment.
Harvest Moon Game Boy Color 3 that came out, I think, a couple years before this movie. It was one of the first Harvest Moon games where you could play as a boy or a girl. I think it was the first one where you had an option. Guess what happens if you play as the girl, Chris?
What, do they put eyelashes on it?
Your story ends when you get married.
Oh, how disappointing.
I mean, it's different times. I mean,
it was, but also it was, we were very heavy into this idea that, like, we needed this duality, because this wasn't just, like, a media thing. Like, products did this heavily, and not just for children. Like, there were men's and women's of everything. And we have since moved past this idea that you must be a boy to enjoy explosions and or tits. But this is where Lara Croft was birthed. And this is where, whether or not you like it, this is her core, and it is honestly what has kept her going all these years later.
Well, and on top of that, like, here's how big of a celebrity she became. Like, people were writing in, wanting to know backstory, wanting to know personal history. Fucking U2 used footage of her on their Pop Mart World Tour. She was the ambassador for British science excellence and appeared in many magazines that weren't just video game magazines.
I mean, that's the equivalent of Indiana Jones showing up on National Geographic. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and it makes me think of, like, the similar thing happened in Final Fantasy The Spirit Within with its protagonist as well.
I mean, she really did manage to rock the boat. And while I think for a lot of people, the, like, sexiness of her was a huge selling point, they did manage to create a character who was more dimensional than just that. Like, she had cool moves, she had cool guns, she was essentially the Indiana Jones, but British and lady.
And very angled dimensions.
Yeah, well, we did very quickly move past the angled dimensions, which honestly a lot of people hated. Like, I do remember when she got, like, the full, like, proper rounded boobs, people were kind of upset that, like, they didn't think they were as boobage as the triangle tits.
It's weird as shit.
And, like, the developers and people in the gaming industry had to be like, guys, it's because triangles are, like, triangle shaped and circles are circle shaped.
We have better software now.
We have better technology.
Limited by polygons.
Yeah, we have better technology, and fans were like, no, I miss triangle tits.
Yeah, I've seen cosplay where they redo
the triangle tits is a classic cosplay move. It's hilarious.
So, obviously, it's no wonder Tomb Raider was going to be adapted into a movie, and interest actually started around the launch of Tomb Raider 2 in 1997. There were a lot of people who were interested, but it wasn't until Paramount Pictures producers Lawrence Godin, Godin?
Sure.
And Lloyd Levin approached them that things really began to heat up because Levin was a fan of the games.
Of fucking course he was.
And between the two of them, they had produced such hits such as Die Hard, Predator, The Rocketeer, and Event Horizon.
I'm not gonna lie, there's some overlap there between those and the film style of this one.
Yeah, and producer Levin said that he wanted to create a movie that was true to the game in a sense that Laura's adventures take her around the globe.
Yeah, I get what he's going for. But we're gonna get to the where in the world is Carmen Sandiego troubles that this movie has.
And everyone was worried that it would end up like other previous video games.
Sure. I mean, the other ones weren't good.
And so the approach that they went with, they wanted to make a movie and put it in directions that had never been seen in the adventure landscape, per se.
Sure, yeah.
And I will say it does stand out quite a bit from Indiana Jones.
It does. I think a huge part of that is the overall theming. Granted, nowadays, like, looking back, we have a lot that fill into this, like, very odd selection of adventure styling. But, yeah, like, especially 2001, there's not a whole lot to compare this to.
Yeah. And, I mean, even with this direction in mind, much like Gladiator, Tomb Raider didn't really get fully fleshed out until Wes joined the team. There were many working titles for this movie.
Of course there was.
The two mentioned in the official film companion were Tomb Raider, The Achilles Shield, and Tomb Raider, The Adventures of Lara Croft.
See, one of those is clearly for a different movie. And one of those is just this movie, but with the words reversed.
Yeah, pretty much. And of which West actually turned down the offer twice due to the scripts being pretty much, as he put them, Indiana Jones or in line of the stereotype, or had a stereotyped view of England.
Yeah, okay. I can kind of see why he would think that, especially because, like, the Britishness of Lara Croft has always been something that is not negotiable. Like, she has always been unapologetically British. So it's not something they could have just, like, written around and gotten away with.
No, not at all. And so he only accepted as long as they would let him keep the title Tomb Raider and start from the beginning.
All right.
So he really started diving into all of it, getting core design to send over all the information they had on him, reading up on archaeological, mysticism, ancient civilization, and just subjects in movies such as epic movies such as Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia.
There's definitely some flakes of those things sprinkled in here. We will get to why they are flakes later, though, I suppose.
Yeah. But he always wanted to stay clear of Indiana Jones.
And for something that is so closely, like, next to Indiana Jones, I honestly do think that while this... Honestly, the two, because there's this one and then there's its second one. Both of these do manage to avoid Indiana Jones entirely. Whether or not they are good is a different debate, but they do. There is a very clear distinction.
Yeah, but once Angelina Jolie decided to hop on board, everything took a life of its own.
Which is really good because Angelina Jolie was nobody at this point, but she also wasn't the huge name that she is now.
No, she had a couple big movies like Girl Forgotten or something. I can't remember that name actually.
Honestly, that's how
Girl Uninterrupted. That's
how everyone else felt about her at this time too. Like, people recognized her. Like, the name is kind of hard to miss. She's the only person in Hollywood with this name. But also, people were not like pinpointing her all across the board as like she's in everything. Like, this was very much a unique role that was good for her. It was a good fit. Exactly.
So before we get into it, Chris, what are we drinking today?
Well, she only really drinks a beer in the movie, so we found, since this is a summer blockbuster, a summer ale.
Citrus sweet. And water, because this is a very thirsty movie.
Ooh, it could have been worse. We'll
Cheers.
get to it. It's fine.
Yeah. It might have been in my fridge for a couple of years.
I was going to say this...
So, we get the title card of Lara Croft Tomb Raider, which...
It's very 2000s.
Yeah, and I know they tried staying away from Indiana Jones, but the title card itself feels very Indiana Jones on top of her initially going into the... I think it's like their nod that, okay, yes, we know Indiana Jones exists, but they're just like, we'll do it a little differently.
And honestly, I don't Okay, I understand when this came out, they were very worried about the whole Indiana Jones thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't care. Because I feel like their styles are two very different styles. Like, she is very guns blazing. Indiana Jones is supposed to be much more professor-y.
Much more calm, rational thinking, not reactive.
Whereas she is very much, knife first, ask questions later.
Yeah.
And so, while I understand how hard they tried, I see the similarities, and I raise you, I don't care.
No. Not at all. And I mean, we even with like the first action we see, like just her like sliding or dropping down from wherever she's standing.
Yes.
It feels very stiff, but also video gamey at the time where it's...
Yes, okay. So I'm glad you brought that up almost immediately, because from, like, the very first shot that she is in, the entire movie is clearly filmed with this intention of, like, nod to how it would be done in a video game. Like, there's very little movie logic and all video game logic, right? Like, the way the camera fits, the way she holds herself, the way she handles all of the weapons and changing actions, like, it's great detail. It does, however, unless you are either know about the games or are a fan of the games, it reads weird. It looks weird.
The way she jumps feels like kind of how, like, when you jump with Crash Bandicoot and don't move forward, they do that, like, very awkward flip.
The way she holds her guns is so video game character-y.
Yes.
Like, the way she runs around, the way she pivots, and, honestly, just about everything but talking. And even then, the dialogue still feels like it's written for a video game.
Yeah.
Like, it all feels very video gamey, which I personally like. I enjoy it as, like, a fun, cheesy flick thing. I do think, however, that most critics saw that and went, wow, this is terrible, because they hated us.
Yeah, it makes it feel like old school kung fu martial arts movies where it's clearly on wires.
Yes.
Like, people don't move like that naturally.
And it's not in the, like, fun way of, like, oh, people are on wires, so there's now no longer gravity.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, we only had one take to take this in, and you did your best.
Yeah. And immediately the movie does try and set itself apart from Jones as we get right into a big robot fight, which the idea for this robot came from some boxing training device, but honestly, it makes me think of Omega from Final Fantasy 1, the secret boss that most people didn't run into.
Yeah, it does read video game boss-esque, which is 100% what they were going for. However, from a movie standpoint, it has nothing to do with anything.
No, not at all. Well,
like, why are these here? Why doesn't she use them later?
No, exactly. But and on top of that, like, it has like nothing. It's just there to have like a cool fight scene from the get-go, because like the bullet, she's fighting the machine shooting it, but she's able to blast through an entire what's supposed to be a stone pillar. Like,
again, it's video game logic, which I'm down for. Like, I'm okay with video game logic, especially with a movie that is blatantly, like, from the get-go, like, we are a video game, like, that's fine. The thing that baffles me is none of this is consistent. Like, this writing is not consistent for the rest of the game. Because, or, I say game, movie. Because these robots have nothing to do with anything else in the plot.
Yeah, no, exactly. Why is she training with a robot? Because
they do not explain.
Is she supposed to find robots in the tomb? Like, what other shit has she run into that she's fighting this giant machine?
No. And, like, don't get me started on, well, it's a reference. No. This is a standalone movie that was very clearly targeted at people who had not played the games. And so, if you're gonna have a standalone movie where you're not, like, having this prerequisite of, like, hey, we're, basing ourselves off of the third game or something. Like, no, this was just, like, the idea of Lara Croft, right? So why are there robots? And why are the bullets at this moment capable of going through stone and later not capable of going through stone?
Yeah. Well, because it's obviously not stone. It's just, like, particle board or something that they put up. Or foam, probably.
Sure, but at the same time, like, why wouldn't you, like, have a consistency there?
Yeah, fight like you're in actual conditions. If you're going through all this shit to rebuild an ancient pyramid.
I do love, though, that this is our opportunity to have our fun 2000s Hacker Man introduced. Because in a 2000s action movie, you were required to have Hacker Man.
Yeah, there's...
Even National Treasure had a Hacker Man.
Yeah.
And
the
so
geeky sidekick.
There's always a geeky sidekick who under 10 minutes can hack the mainframe.
Which Angelina Jolie's part of that too, because like, also, here's the other thing about the training. This artifact is for a program to turn this giant Final Fantasy weapon into a stereo?
I have no idea. I have no fucking clue, and I've thought about this left, right, and center, because I've watched this movie a handful of times now. Honestly, too many in close proximity to each other. And it's one of those things where, from certain aspects and certain angles, I can see how the writing this scene would have played out as, like, her winning, and, like, she's also tech savvy. Like, unlike other action heroes, she's also somewhat tech savvy and is able to, reprogram. She's
brains and brawn.
Exactly.
Which, I don't believe her being able to, like, overpower the robot when it's got, like, the saws in her face and shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the thing that bothers me is something that becomes apparent from the very first scene. There was a lot more to this movie. Like, so much more to this movie, that because of time constraints and budgets and pressures from, the movie gods up above, that had to be cut out or added because gods up above said, we need X, Y, and Z. Which is fine, and we know that happens. However, it was bad in this movie, to the point where I firmly believe that there is a, like, missing link between this scene and some other scene later in the movie.
Yeah, I could see that. Maybe, like, the robots were supposed to come in down the line, or she was supposed to run into a robot or something. I mean,
like, the robots are part of her home security system for later, when she's, broken into in the night.
Yeah, we do kind of get, like, why she'd be training against the robot a little bit later, but, like, it doesn't really work, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's just a dumb, fun beginning to, like, show that she's been trained, or that she's badass.
And also maybe bored of sitting in her vast mansion.
Yes, which, that was one thing. The scene kind of kicks off this whole concept that the director liked, that because Laura's so rich, there's no limit in money, that she could just do normal activities, but she won't because she has to take them to the next level. Yeah,
it's very, like, action movie logic. And, it's dumb. I, though, like when the hero has endless amounts of Batman money and an ungodly big mansion that makes no damn sense. And also has a tech friend who lives in a trailer in her backyard.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, to be fair, I will give Jolie credit that she did actually train for this movie. They had an NSAS trainer for the guns. She even brought up that, like, she was super weak before. She couldn't even, like, really hold the gun before the training and whatnot.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of problems with this movie. I'm not gonna lie. Her performance isn't one of them for me.
No.
I really enjoy her. Yes, it's silly, and yes, it's very video gamey, but I kind of like that she went ahead and took that extra mile to, like, really try to be Lara Croft, not take her own spin on it.
Yeah, and, like, I do appreciate that it was also to make her more of a street fighter instead of martial arts expert. Like, I think they do a good job trying to set her up.
I
just think the robot skews it way to left field.
It does, and we're gonna go in the other direction with, like, a whiplash neck lunge in just a few scenes, so, like, don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, because immediately, like, we get this montage of a badass walk to show that she's well off, like,
yeah, we get to see this luxury mansion. Yeah. And the reason I love ungodly amounts of luxury money in these fantasy adventure movies is because I like to see what the directors and writers think ungodly amounts of money looks like. Because it's never actually what ungodly amounts of money would look like.
Yeah.
It's just, like, some very random assortment of things. And in this case, we happen to have accidentally crossed the Batman and Bond into one building.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's beautiful and it's glorious, and I love seeing all of these little bits where you're like, wow, that would never exist. Not because the money's the problem, but because nobody wants this.
No, exactly. And unfortunately, we cannot escape Mel Gibson because yet again,
God damn
this
it.
movie's tied to it a little bit, as the production designer Kirk Petrucci or Petrucci Shelley also did The Patriot.
The man is haunting me at this point.
Yeah,
I'm insulted.
well, maybe we'll just do an entire year of Gibson.
I would die. I would keel over and die.
Yeah, but after this, I mean, we're 6 minutes into the movie where we get the shower scene with her with the whole like cheesy hair flip and everything. Like,
it was supposed to be worse too.
Oh god.
So there is, like I said, this movie was meant to be so much longer, like crazy amounts longer. They originally cut it down, then they got told no, it needs to be even shorter than that, so they cut it even more. And so now we only have 4 deleted scenes in the extra DVD section. But the word on the street is that there was significantly more that could have been added in. And a large portion of the bits that were removed were supposed body doubled naked scenes of Lara Croft in the shower, full front.
Well,
a butt shot that we were ungodly deprived of.
Well, those would be absolutely wrong because that was one thing that the developer said is she couldn't swear, she couldn't smoke, and they couldn't have full frontal nudity.
The developer said that. You're correct.
That was part of the contractual obligations to have this movie. And Director West stated that it was very hard to shoot the side boob scene or the towel drop scene as he called it.
Yes.
Because they had to keep this movie within the realm of PG-13. So
You're right there. However, there is lots of footage that we are no longer privy to. And the rumor is that and we know for a fact that they did at least film some stuff that Angelina Jolie was not comfortable with full body wise, because she had a body stunt double on set for some of these scenes. They were cut probably because someone was like, "But what if we did it anyway and we could like sneak it in later?" Oh well. Be sad, friends and family.
Or maybe not in this movie, but for all you thirsty nerds who wish to see, she does go full frontal in not full, but you guys see her titties in a handful of movies.
That's true. I mean, like, the imagination does not need to be stretched too thin.
Original Sin with Antonio Banderas.
They have
a sex scene together.
You can just paste those 2 movies together and you have your director's cut.
Sure. But also, like, we get introduced to the butler who's trying to turn her into a modest lady. Like,
hi, Alfred. What you doing in this movie?
He feels very fatherly figure-ish.
Yes. Again, it feels like there's some writing and some dialogue that have been cut from this movie that is, unfortunately, imperative to this character's development.
It's just trying so hard to show that she's a sexy badass.
It is. And, like, don't get me wrong. It's an action summer blockbuster film. She's supposed to be. That's the whole point of the movie. That's why everyone is here. I do think, though, that they did try to cram quite a few characters into what is essentially a looks-only, no dialogue.
Yeah. No, there's so many montages of...
There's so much fighting montage.
Showing off equipping around certain assets.
There's so much focus on her reloading her damn guns. And don't get me wrong, it feels very video game-esque. It feels very like, yes, Tomb Raider in essence. However, we didn't have any time to explain who anybody is. We know that this is the butler because he is dressed butlery.
Yeah, there really is no character building at all in this movie.
They don't even really explain why she has a best friend nerd who lives in her backyard.
Yeah.
She, like, the only real development we get from him is, like, at one point she's like, hey, we have rooms. You can live inside. And he's like, no, I live in the trailer.
Yeah,
you're like, all right.
And, like, his character doesn't really do much the whole movie either. He's just there.
He's needed for, like, one scene.
If that. But I do want to quickly talk about the look of Lara Croft in this movie.
Yes.
Because instead of going with the classic look, they wanted to make her look more in line with the game that was currently being made at the time, Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation.
Sure.
I
can see it.
To show how related and how large the game got to into the movie world. Costume designer Linda Hemming had done costumes for Dr. Christmas Jones, and The World Is Not Enough, and the book compared her to a Lara Croft clone, which when you do look at it, it's very, very similar. Like,
I can see it.
Yeah, they weren't really subtle about it, because, again, I mean, it's, even with the color difference, it's tight, high shorts, big titties, tight shirt.
Yeah. Okay, I am going to say, though, I am not necessarily a hard stickler on, especially older characters, like old TV show adaptations or old video game adaptations where we give the characters different clothing to wear. I won't lie, there's not a lot of clothing options for Miss Lara Croft in this movie. She seems to only have 2 options, and one she doesn't pull out to, like, the end of the movie. But I'm not upset that they changed her look slightly. She still looks enough like Lara Croft that even if you, like, hadn't seen the newer games or anything like that, like, you would still be able to, like, look at her, look at the original game, be like, yeah, that's the same person.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when the Scooby-Doo gang movies get made, and, like, they're like, oh my god, they put someone in some other outfits. Like, it's still purple. Calm down. It's still Daphne.
Yeah.
It's still the same person. She is just not wearing the exact same outfit she's worn for the last 40 years.
Things have to adapt and dress up to a more modern era. Like, you see people complain, what was it? I think it was the new Shirley Temple movie where, like, it's like hip hop and stuff, and like,
yeah,
it does,
I mean,
like, and looking at it, like, I'd never watched the originals to begin with, but
sure.
like,
I mean,
I understand it's not a movie that's made for me. It's made for a different audience.
Yeah, and also, like, the original Shirley Temples were made for a very specific actress who isn't acting anymore. So, like, we have to change it at some point.
Yeah.
Whether or not it works is, that's still to be seen. But at the same time, I also think that the clothing change that they went with changed her enough from being an accidentally too close to Indiana Jones look, and also not quite, like, this movie runs way too close to Mission Impossible and James Bond vibes. This is a nice in-between. We get spy vibes, but we also get adventurer from the outfit. It's easy, it's quick. You don't notice if it, like, gets damaged or dirty too quickly. It's a practical outfit. Not from, like, an actual person standpoint, but from, like, a movie filming standpoint.
And I know I'm gonna be wrong. I only remember, like, 4, maybe 5 outfits the whole movie.
There's really not a lot of outfits.
Okay.
Like, honestly, it's kind of the main shirt and shorts combo, and, like, yes, there are a few shirt and shorts. They are essentially the same.
Just different colors.
Yeah, pretty much. Which, honestly, isn't a bad choice, especially because, like, Angelina Jolie even said herself, like, look, I can be curvaceous, I can look like her, but I have to be wearing a tight shirt, like, nobody looks like her, and does all of this action and stuff with baggy outfits on.
No.
Like, and this is also early 2000s. We have a certain aesthetic. This is it.
Tits.
And also, tight shirt, the wide straps, like, spaghetti straps would have been too dainty, too girly. Big wide straps. Yes, the shorts are stupid, and they're just one step below something you'd wear to a volleyball tournament. But at the same time, like, they do have pockets. She does have a belt.
But are they functioning pockets? They are not functioning.
They are not.
Pockets.
She has to add pockets to the outside of her outfit.
Exactly.
But this is also 2000, and pockets were a myth in the 2000s. Unless you bought those pants that were literally, like, so big you could, like, smuggle a TV out of them.
You mean cargo pants?
No. They were, like, for skater kids.
Oh, yeah. The one, yeah, I know.
I was not allowed to buy them.
The ones Oliver Tree wears.
Yes.
No. But from here, we are on to Venice, Italy, for a meeting with the Illuminati, which it is funny hearing something from even back then when conspiracy theories really were fringe.
They were, and they were considered, like, fiction. They weren't, like, an everyday thing. Well,
I was listening to the commentary, and Wes said that the Illuminati were an actual conspiracy theory. And, I mean, granted, even in, like, the 2000s, I had heard them before. Like, it wasn't uncommon, at least for me.
They were, okay, I know when this came out that was such a, like, standard movie trope, like, mystery bad guy, that at this point, everything, like, it was almost a joke that everything was the Illuminati.
Yeah, everything still is. Like,
Like, it still feels cheesy because it's the Illuminati. They should have just made up a fake group.
Oh, yeah, no, it would have been so much better. But, again, he did his research and wanted to use something real.
Okay, and that is where I would like to point out that doing your research, especially in 2000s, for history, mystery sort of stuff, has never led to anything good. Case example, this movie. Other case example... the National Treasure, and pretty much all of them. Like, they're all almost the same thing, right? Mm. Because we did our research, which means we've got, like, 5 things to work with, 5 secret artifacts.
We found the Illuminati are real people. Let's use them because they sound mysterious.
And here's where I think, while I don't really want to compare Indiana Jones and Lara Croft too much, because they are truly 2 separate things, right?
Yeah.
One thing that this movie, specifically... I think would have taken a better stab at from Indiana Jones's, like, base point is, at least for, like, the first couple movies and, like, what people thought of him, they used fake lost artifacts. So, like, the Lost Ark. Like, they use things that people collectively have heard of but are not necessarily tied to anything in history. And look what happens when we start tying things in history. It's the worst of the Indiana Jones movies. I hate you, Crystal Skull.
One day.
And so I think this is the proof. Like, we have now built the evidence that going from here forward, I vote, all of us together as a collective whole, shall make up our own fake-ass artifacts to find and hide throughout the fake-ass world.
Or you know what secret societies you get?
What?
You get the secret society of Jewish shoe cobblers in Adam Sandler's movie.
Oh, yeah.
The Cobbler.
But honestly, that's more creative than the Illuminati.
Yeah, no,
I will take it.
I will give it that it's a dumb ending to that movie.
Yes.
But, like, it is like, okay, whatever. Like,
I'd rather that than another movie about the Illuminati. That's not even about the Illuminati.
No, because, I mean, all this scene is, pretty much, is to set up the MacGuffin of the key. And they're so cryptic. You must find the 2 triangles and join them together to stop time.
I love how this movie attempts very briefly to be, like, puzzle in the way that a video game would have a puzzle. Mm-hmm. But even in the video game puzzles, the puzzles are not that challenging. And so the puzzle in the movie is also dumb and not that challenging, and is only cryptic because you are not looking at the puzzle.
Well, it also feels like this group hasn't been doing shit for the last 100 years.
No, when he walks in, he's like, we're so close to having it done. I went, bullshit, you started yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, well, no, and they're like, the time frame is in 1 week, and it's like, you have one guy trying to track.
Why would you have, like, a whole group of people working on this?
Yeah, it just feels like they just held off until the last minute, and they're like, oh yeah, you remember that alignment that's supposed to happen when we're supposed to have those 2 triangles to stop time?
Yeah, I feel like maybe...
What if we did that, actually?
Yeah, I feel like maybe we should have started on this a while ago, because what if there's a really tricky puzzle that you have to solve, and Lara Croft isn't there? Or, I don't know, maybe you solve it before she gets there, and you can, like, actually put up a defense, and you're not, like, racing the clock to break down walls.
Yeah.
But no, much like everyone else, we procrastinated until the last minute.
Yeah, and immediately from there we go back to Laura, who's presented with planned out adventures, like someone else is doing the research for her. It's like, hey, so we found this artifact here, we found this artifact maybe here, or this artifact here, and she's being all fucking moody because, like...
She is. I will say, I do kind of like this interpretation of, like, hey... She doesn't actually do any of the research. She's the one who goes in and gets them for the people who do the research. I think that's a nice touch that they don't lean into.
Okay. Yeah, now that you put that up, that makes sense.
Because the movie goes out of its way to explain that Tomb Raider is a job title. There are multiple people in this world who are Tomb Raiders.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it feel like a job request board from, like, Rune Factory or something.
100%. Yeah.
But, oh no, the reason she's not in the mood for adventuring is it's the anniversary of her dad's death, which he does have a pretty cool tomb. It's inspired by the mausoleum of Sir Richard and Lady Burton, who were authors, and Richard himself was a Victorian-era explorer, one of the first people to reach the interior of Africa, like, pretty big in the name, like tracking down the source of the Nile.
I mean... It's a cool scene, but at the same time, we have just witnessed the Illuminati doing shit.
Yeah. Well,
and we are presented with flashback.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing, is the pacing of this movie is so
it's weird.
All over the place in the setup of it.
Yeah.
Because once we get into it, it's all just nonstop. But, like, we've gone from action, sexy shower side boob, Illuminati, dead dad, in 11 minutes.
Yes. It is painful to try and get through the first little quarter of this movie. Because it tries so hard to set up a lot of stuff, but at the same time explains nothing.
Yeah, just like, oh no, you disappear. Because immediately from this, she goes to watching Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus come into alignment, and like all this shit came from some nature magazine that Wes was reading about. And
it's a very strange way to start a quest.
Yeah, and they also for some reason bring up that this is the, or no, it doesn't bring it up. Wes brought up for some reason in the commentary that this was the magazine said that this was the alignment that started the Chinese calendar, which I didn't do any research on. It could have been, but
at the same time, I don't care.
Yeah,
because like it doesn't like for someone who supposedly did a shit ton of research for this, it feels like very like third grade essay research, where like we briefly Googled some stuff.
Oh no, exactly. Well, here's the thing: is he wanted to bring this into because this was the start of his theme of time, and you can't control time or nature. Sure. It's basically the premise of this entire movie.
Which, if we had explained or leaned in just a little bit more, I would be down for, but...
Well, yeah. So at this point, too, it's like, why the hell is she even watching the stars? Like, in the first place, like, it's just... Okay, cool, she's into astronomy for some reason as a side hobby.
Again, I have a feeling that there's like a sentence or two with her dad where he's like, my child, never forget our bonded love of watching stars together.
Yeah. I also don't get the space shots either, because like...
I don't either.
They're just,
I have no idea what that's about.
They only are really effectively used in like one scene, maybe.
I'm not gonna lie, unless you bring them up, I would have forgotten they were in the movie.
They would have been a cool element to show the passage of time of... Because, like, the way it makes them look, it makes it look like they're already in alignment. There's not any movement. They're just kind of there.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree. No, okay. The marking of passage of time is very, like, challenging in this movie. Because, again, there's only been, like, 11, 15 minutes so far that has passed, right? Mm-hmm. But it feels like Lara Croft has now lived a week.
No, exactly.
Because we've done too many things.
Yeah, well, and immediately, like, because we cut from here, too, like, and again, this movie paces, like, sporadically.
Yes.
Because now she's dreaming of her past and her dad, which now we get why she cares about the alignment, because her dad told her, and here's the thing.
It's a bad backflash.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because this is where I can see why people don't like dream sequences, because this is that dream sequence where it's a poorly told flashback. It's supposed to add emotion and explain shit, but it could have just been said in like a line or two of why she was looking at the alignment instead of like having this whole I know why it's to have her look in a like vulnerable in a bedroom scene, like from the first angle, is she naked under there?
From a videography standpoint, I agree with you. From a writing standpoint, though, this is where it is strange and baffling to me, because all of this could have been very neatly and elegantly handled at the tomb scene that we were just in. We could have wrapped it up nicely. We could have added a little bit of tidbit about how her and her dad bonded over stars and planets.
Or you could have just done it we didn't even need the tomb scene. We could have just done it in the alignment scene. But we had to bring it up. We had to go to the tomb because she didn't want to go adventuring. So now she has to go to the tomb to give a little bit of extra. And now she has to view the stars. And what did all three of those scenes mean? Nothing, because we have to explain it in a goddamn flashback.
True. And where other action films that have decent stories will let the audience like think through a story bit themselves, like you give a little bit of a reasoning, like, I don't feel like adventuring today. You remember what day it is? Of course, ma'am. Would you like to go to the mausoleum, or shall I leave you alone today? Let her go there, and then not say anything. Don't tell me anymore. Don't show me her father. I don't need to know. I can figure it out. I promise.
Exactly. It's like in Perot movies where it's all these stupid little hints that, unless you know that in this fictional world, this person's related to someone who never appears on screen previously,
Yes.
or is even mentioned,
But
it's treating you like an idiot. But in reverse, where it's explaining too much.
It is explaining too much. I need that middle ground of don't explain all of it to me. Let me figure it out. I have faith in my ability to figure out a Lara Croft plot.
Yeah. But on top of that, like when she awakens from this dream / supposed to be a nightmare.
Okay, she awakens like it's a nightmare, but it was a dream about her dad. So like I don't know.
Yeah, she pulls out a knife, and I think what it's supposed to be is it's supposed to make it feel like she lives a dangerous life.
But she lives in a luxury mansion.
No, exactly, because it's the exact opposite of, like, Indiana Jones, where in the first movie he's shot at by the natives. It just...
Yeah, this doesn't feel dangerous because so far she's only been in her house.
Yeah, all she's done is she's fought an overly equipped stereo, and she commissioned
which she asked him to fight her.
Yeah. And
I believe the tomb is on her own family property. So, like, girl hasn't even left her house.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also, this is the part where, like, she gets up because she hears a clock, and, like, I don't...
Okay, if the movie had played it off as she is a light sleeper because she normally is in places of danger, and this clock that she doesn't know where it's from is keeping her awake, I could believe that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what they were originally going for, but it is weirdly timed and paced because of the dad scene, not even a half second earlier. So, like, I can 100% believe someone losing their goddamn mind because a mystery clock is ticking in their walls.
Yeah, and also I thought it was really weird in the sound effects area where the moment she finds the room it's in, the ticking stops.
I agree. I feel like the ticking needs to keep going.
Yeah, would just keep going until, like, she finds it and then, like, mute it a little bit.
Yeah, like, we can, not hear it constantly, but I agree. The ticking needs to continue.
Yeah, and she wakes up Nerd Dude, who, for some reason, is sleeping with robots in his trailer that are walking around in the middle of the night making noise.
Here's the other thing, though. Those robots look distinctly like a toy from the early 2000s that were those wind-up robot, like, fake robot things where they kind of, like, just walked or jittered around. And so, like, I know the goal is to make him into, like, this really nerdy guy who's very good at building stuff, and he has, like, pet robots. But all it looks like is, like, a man-child who fell asleep in a pile of kindergarten toys.
Yeah. No, exactly. And the only reason she wakes him up is to examine the clock, which...
She breaks anyway.
Yeah, no, immediately she breaks, like, it's...
She just, like, hammer busts it open.
Yeah, she's so impatient, and, like, I don't get a lot of it, because she's, like, it started ticking on the first day of the alignment. It's like, well, technically it started ticking on the first night, but...
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think that, like, a little bit more emphasis on the eclipse alignment thing would have been beneficial.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's just like, if you really were concerned about what's in there, you would have assumed it's fragile, right?
Yeah, okay, that was my other question, is because when she is, like, bashing it open, doesn't it not look like she just needs to literally pick up the plate and move it?
Yeah.
Like, stop!
She's a badass, she's impatient.
Which, like, I don't mind that as a character portion, but, like, again, this is also the only portion of this movie where we see her be impatient. It doesn't feel like a continuous trait.
She's just constantly like, well, yeah, you're right, because there is a lot of pausing.
Yeah, like, well, that, and, like, we don't get very continuous moments with her. There's a lot of flipping between, I assume, time, but I can't tell.
Yeah, because she immediately goes from here to an auction, and with some radical
she wears a leather jacket.
Yeah, on the edge of bike driving.
Yeah, okay, the bike driving feels video game-esque, and I don't mind it.
It feels old action movie.
Yeah, which, I mean, for the game, feels about right. It feels like the transition scene between, like, oh, you've clicked on the map, and now your character's gonna magically show up over here. Motorcycle.
It's just a transition scene that like doesn't really help.
No, it doesn't. But I also don't hate it.
Yeah. And on top of that, there's like the bad auction where she waves to someone and it's a bidding, and it's like, this is where I realized like the humor in this movie is not good in the least bit.
No, in fact, I feel like we should have just removed the humor entirely.
Yeah, no, like the humor is not even there. Like it's very dad joke humor. It's borderline dad joke. It's not fully there,
I was gonna say, if they had leaned into, like, if there was more humor sprinkled throughout, I could be a fan of this dumb humor to an extent. And I mean, it's action movie humor. It's to be expected. It's the same 5 jokes over and over again.
Yeah.
But there's really not a whole lot of other humor throughout this film, so I don't really understand why we needed this to be... Like, she busts in like she's gonna just buy the place. Why not just let her continue to be a badass?
Yeah, and it seems like she's worried about, oh no, it's $2 million. She's supposed to have unlimited money. Why does she look worried that she's gonna buy something on accident for $2 million?
I feel like it would have been cooler if she had just stormed in and raised her hand and be like, $4 million, it's mine! Like,
yeah.
That would have been cooler.
Yeah, more badass and be like, oh, Lara Croft! And then everyone's just like, fuck, this bitch is here.
She's gonna clean us out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would have been way cooler, and honestly, I feel like a little bit more on character.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the way they show she's a badass in this is she takes a table or a chair, flips it around, and uses it to rest her legs on. Like,
yay. I mean, she could do that too, but also buy the auction house.
Exactly. But also, this is where we meet Alex, who is supposed to be an old flame and rival Tomb Raider.
Sure, I mean, he's cute enough, I don't care.
Yeah, it's also... It doesn't... That's the thing, granted, I haven't played these games, but it feels like it's borderline that point of, there, we said the line, but I don't know the game enough to see where, like, they're like... It doesn't feel like... Where Mortal Kombat says... fatality. It's like, haha, you guys said the line.
It also doesn't feel like something that, like, even if I wasn't part of the game fandom, like, there's lines that are so obviously part of the game that, like, it's obvious even if you aren't part of that group, right? This one doesn't quite feel like it. It just kind of feels like, oh, were you paying attention? Ooh, we put it in.
Did you not know that this movie's called Tomb Raider? We just called her a Tomb Raider.
Yeah, it feels like that as opposed to, like, something for the fan. Yeah. It just kind of feels patrony.
Yeah, they're both asses.
Yeah, I mean, they're good for each other, I guess.
Yeah, it's time to meet the old dad's friend who they're examining the clock, which... They're perplexed that the clock is counting down.
I feel like that's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and also, like, wow, it started ticking on the first day of the alignment, and it's counting down. Like, have you never heard of an advent calendar, people?
I do wish that there was just a hair more effort into, like, trying to make a fake something or other to, like, make it feel a little less obvious.
Yeah, just...
Like, maybe we could reference, like, oh, there's some lettering around the edge of it. It's clearly this.
It's a long way for them to explain. It's like, oh, there's these notches in here. It looks like it fits into some... It's very video game of, like, grab this key, press it into the keyhole to open the door.
It is very much that, but instead of, like, trying at all to elevate that sort of logic into something a little tiny bit more elegant, or even using that as an opportunity to, like, expand the world a little.
Yeah.
It just, they went straight with the video game style, and it just kind of feels like the audience is meant to be stupid.
Yeah, and also, like, it never really explains, like, where this clock came from, or, like, why they've never known about it before, or why it's even in the house.
Yeah, why does she have a secret room in her house?
Yeah.
She's not very upset about this secret room.
It's not even a secret room, it just feels like it's a closet that she never goes into.
She busted the wall down.
Oh. Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah, and also we're told that the Triangle of Light, or it's part of the legend of the Triangle of Light that's stamped on it, the all-seeing eye, and it gives its possessor extraordinary power to control time.
Cool, like, that is the sort of bullshit that I want for all of it. Get rid of the Illuminati, bring in new people to go with my possession of being Time Lord.
Just say it from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Fun fact about the clock, it actually worked.
Ooh.
And the glow of it was the hardest thing to do. It's a special paper that lights up when electricity is passed through it.
Ooh, very cool.
Yeah. So kind of cool that they made it work, but that's kind of just this thing that's supposed to advance the plot a little bit.
I'm not gonna lie, unlike other action movies where some of the props are things that I'm like, that would be so cool to have a replica of.
Mm-hmm.
I do not give a shit about this clock or the key portion of said clock.
No.
It's so generic looking.
Oh, it's so bad. Well, and even from there, like, the movie's doesn't try to be tricky or clever.
No, it's very straightforward despite having terrible cuts and jumps.
Yeah, because the old man clearly knows something. He's having a drink at night. He's like, I'm so sorry. Saying it to Laura's photo of Laura's dad. But there's also this dumb bit where Laura's microwave dinner explodes because West wanted to add kind of a counter to that all women can cook cliche, and it's like, so
it's
you
a
made
microwave dinner, though.
Yeah, you made her a bad microwave cook, and she drinks beer and fights stuff. Okay,
I mean, she sounds like a standard single lady to me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my average night is also microwaving food. Like, ain't nobody got time to be cooking themselves dinner. It's her, a butler, and a dude living in the trailer behind her house, and that man is clearly living on ramen and chips.
She's got all the money in the world to do whatever she wants, but she can't hire a cook.
Maybe those are really good frozen meals. We don't know.
It's a dumb bit that...
It is a really dumb bit. Also, the microwave is in the most asinine place physically possible.
It's like sitting on some filing shelves or some shit.
In the middle of said empty room. Again, she's the wealthiest woman in the world, and she doesn't own, like, a room with a microwave on a counter. Like a kitchen, or I don't know, a kitchenette.
She's too busy. It has to be in her downstairs laboratory.
Which is like 4 wings away.
Yeah. Just the dumb little bits that they added to make her like this strong, independent woman, and it's like...
Like, they definitely were trying for strong, independent woman, but by, like, man logic, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, which I do think you see it nowadays where it's like, a strong, independent woman is like, I live on my own, I cook, I clean, I pay my own rent, I pay my own bills, and it's, congratulations, you're just like every other adult person.
There is a huge trend going around recently about what girl dinner is.
Okay, I've seen that pop up. I don't know what the fuck it is or means.
So, girl dinner is when you don't have to cook for anybody else, so you're just having yourself a little girl dinner. Girl dinner is like a charcuterie board, but with things that you just have. And none of it should really go together. 20 olives, girl dinner.
So,
a hunk of cheese and some chocolate.
So me eating an entire pickle jar in one sitting is girl dinner?
Yes. Congratulations, welcome to girl dinner. Lara Croft, I 100% believe, eats girl dinner, which is like a spoonful of beans out of the refrigerator with the door still open. She closes the door, picks out a popsicle, and then microwaves some popcorn and eats like an orange. That's girl dinner.
Just being a lazy slob.
Yes, girl dinner. Lara Croft would have eaten that and not microwave bullshit. If she did not hire a cook, which I firmly believe that her butler would have cooked her dinner.
Weirdly, it sounds slightly worse than you just spooning peas into your mouth.
This is correct, because I am not having girl dinner, because I am just eating a canned vegetable. There's nothing else with it, it's just canned vegetable.
So how does that make it not girl dinner?
Because girl dinner would be canned vegetable and something.
So my jar of pickles isn't...
Are you eating the pickles with the refrigerator open in thought of maybe eating something else?
No, because I bought them that day at the grocery store and they never make it to the fridge.
Oh, well then, no, that's girl snack.
Fascinating. I'm so out of touch with so much shit.
It's okay, but I firmly, 110% believe that if they were going to have Lara Croft, if they had a woman on the writing staff to help, like, direct what a single woman is eating for dinner, and she's a bad cook, it is not
single woman of the 2000s, remember?
Yeah, I remember the 2000s fondly, and I also was a very large, like, consumer of microwave meals. Those were shit. She has all the money in the world. Girl can either hire a cook, have butler daddy cook for you, or you were just needing to eat like an entire like thing of pre-made, open the bag up and consume it popcorn.
Yeah, you know what it kind of makes me think of? It makes me think of that scene, not that it explodes in the other scene, but in National Treasure, when there's that one random scene of Nick Cage like getting prepped where he pulls out a microwave dinner and whatnot. It's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, the early 2000s had an obsession with like believing people actually wanted to consume microwave dinners. We didn't. We ate them because we had them.
I mean, this was the era of Danimals. Or not Danimals. Or kids' cuisine.
Yeah, I've had Quiz Cuisine. Garbage.
Those were special as a kid.
They were. I'd rather get Mickey D's.
Yeah, true. But now we are on to visit Mr. Powell, a lawyer.
Is he, though? Is he a lawyer?
That's what they keep bringing up. Like, that's how they introduce him, is like, hi, I'm Mr. Powell. I'm a lawyer.
I wish I could just walk up to people and be like, hello, I'm Christine.
Yeah.
I work in design.
But, like, also the dumb thing about this is if this guy is trying to find this is really their first encounter. Like,
also, though, like, he must have had so many people looking for any form of, like, notice.
Mm-hmm.
That this, like, how did he know that she had this? Other than, like, her dad's old friend.
Well, she brings she tells him about the clock.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, she's there to talk to him more because the lawyer directs her towards him.
That's right.
Or the dad friend directs him towards him. Yeah. But I do also enjoy that, like, immediately they're like, something's not right about this person.
You don't seem very lawyerly for a lawyer.
No. But this is also because West wanted the baddie to be evil and sexy, which...
Sure.
Which, I mean, maybe is why he does fuck all this movie as well. Because, like, he's supposed to be the villain, but he's not doing shit, like, almost the entire movie.
That is correct. He doesn't do anything at all. In fact, there's another scene coming up very shortly where there's literally a mob of people all doing work, and he is lounging on a settee.
There's multiple scenes like that.
Yeah, now you should bring it up. That's a good point.
And that's the other thing with the pacing of this movie, because immediately it's nighttime bungee jumping in a shirt that flows perfectly enough that just shows enough stomach the entire time.
I have questions about Laura's rich hobbies, one of which being indoor bungee jumping.
She can't do what normal people do. It's got to be extra.
When you're rich, I guess. I don't know. I guess.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, too, because, like, the raid happens, and, like, they're breaking through everything, and she lands on a chandelier that you know is only built, like, that rating is only to hold the chandelier, really.
110%, yes.
Yeah. And also, I know we need an action scene, but why don't they just steal it, like, in the middle of the night like a normal group of thieves? Why do they have to go in, like, guns a-blazing?
Maybe they tried to, and Lara Croft's in there at 2 a.m. bungee fucking jumping.
Or, no, I know what it is. It's to show that they know if they don't stop her now, she'll come after them.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you remove logic from it, it's a cool scene.
Yeah.
It's maybe not my favorite scene, just because, like, don't get me wrong, I like bungee jumpy sort of thing. I just feel like it's very limited in how they could use it, and it feels a little worked in. I would have preferred her, like, I don't know, staying up late researching or practicing shooting range or something a little bit more practical.
It was worked in. That's why, like, it was to make her be able to, like, jump off of walls. It was to give logic to that kind of bullshit of video game.
I would have rather her been, like, powerlifting in her living room at 2 a.m. because she couldn't sleep.
I think it kind of works just because one of the belts or one of the bungee cords does break.
Yeah, no, like, it looks cool, and, like, I get that we're trying to, like, have some video game physics.
Mm-hmm.
I just, this one is so obviously worked in
that
it's very, like, it's almost a standout scene amongst a bunch of stupidity.
Yeah. And also, like, the way she knocks some dude out with a motorcycle is just...
It's a lot. But honestly, like, there's fighting bits in this that feel well choreographed. Like, it's over the top, it's actiony, but it's fun. Everything's happening quick pace. There's a lot of cool shots and, like, cool, like, action sort of takedowns and guns ablaze and sort of thing. It's honestly the almost too long bungee jumping scene at the beginning that I have issue with.
Yeah, no, it's just, the only purpose there is to give the movie action.
Yeah.
And also give her motivation to, like, advance the story, because now they have the clock, so now she's got to go back and get it. She doesn't know what the clock does, but it's obviously important if someone wants to steal it.
Yeah, okay.
She didn't choose adventure. Adventure found her.
I will say that while the clock is dumb and while this scene is dumb, I do like this movie mechanic of making, like, there is something happening that they cannot stop. So we have to keep the pace going.
Yep.
Which I like. I do think that solves a lot of action movies mid-lull. Like, this movie doesn't have a mid-lull. It had a beginning lull, but no mid-lull.
But it doesn't, because I'll get into why, like, it doesn't help keep the pace of the movie.
I mean, no, in the way that they ended up writing and shooting it, you're correct.
Yeah.
But, like, from a plot point-wise,
if they had actually kept the pace up from here.
Yes.
Because immediately you go back to Mr. Powell, a lawyer, meditating and giving the clock to confirm that he has it and that he's the bad guy. Like,
sure. Honestly, I could have told you he was the bad guy before he was even on set, but okay.
Yeah, again, him doing fuck all this movie.
Yeah, he really doesn't do much.
Yeah.
You bring it up.
We'll get back to the mansion, which we've got Tech Dude and Butler cleaning for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. There's only 2 people here other than Laura.
Yeah, and we get a letter from the father happening to show up after the day of the alignment starts because he mailed it to them. It's like...
That's very convenient.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We're in the 3rd day of the alignment. Like, you couldn't have given this to her a little bit earlier?
I agree. I feel like a week beforehand would have been nice.
Yeah.
Like, give me some heads up.
Exactly.
What if I was somewhere else? What if I was doing something?
Because no one's figured stuff out. It's everything last minute. What if she was on another tomb raiding adventure?
Yeah, what if she was, like, I don't know, trying to plan a vacation, taking some holiday time?
She ain't taking no vacation. Every day's a vacation.
I think she could use a vacation.
But also, I find this movie trope always funny still, is when a letter's sent from, like, decades ahead. Mm-hmm. Like, we're guessing this is presumably Laura's in her early 20s, because last time she saw her dad when she was 5. This letter's almost 20 years old.
Probably-ish.
So, like, you're giving her clues expecting nothing to have changed in the mansion at all. I
also appreciate that this man's faith in the Postal Service.
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you hang on to this for 20 years? Don't lose it. Don't open it. Don't return to sender. If you're rich enough. I honestly don't think the Postal Service cares how rich you are if this is the stipulation.
Have you not seen Back to the Future?
I have. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I feel like there's better, more rich ways to handle this.
No, exactly. Send her off US, or no, this would be the age of floppy disks.
This would be the age of floppy disks, but also, like, I don't know, you live in a fucking mansion, maybe look at a different part of the mansion and be like, oh, I'm gonna have someone hardwire this portrait so that in 20 years' time, it bursts into flames and reveals my secret message behind it.
Do something cool with that
money. Like, come on, don't just, like, rely on someone else to be like, well, I think it's been about 20 years since we got this letter in the mail, we should probably mail that.
Yeah. And we just get more exposition of the Triangle of Light and that she must seek out the Tomb of the Dancing Light. And finally she's told about the Illuminati, like, now.
I don't care.
No,
I've stopped caring.
Just a bunch of exposition because now she's like, I've got to go to Cambodia.
On the plus side, parts of the Cambodia scene were filmed on the actual location.
All of Cambodia was filmed in Cambodia. Well, like... the surrounding sites, not like the inside temple stuff.
Yeah. Which is a big deal because this was the first thing since around 1964, I think, that was shot on set in Cambodia.
Oh, interesting.
They had some problems with, the Khmer Rogue regime being in power.
Yeah, tie in the Dead Kennedy song, Holiday in Cambodia.
Haha.
Where you'll do what you're told.
Well, this was, big deal for them. They got to have Lara Croft Tomb Raider shot.
Yeah.
They've had other things filmed there since, so that's, an improvement.
Yeah. But she's got to call in a favor to get to Cambodia. Like, what the hell was she doing to be Dumbo dropped into Cambodia, like, beforehand?
I don't know, but also, isn't she the, richest bored woman on the planet? Girl couldn't have gotten her pilot license?
Yeah. But, like, also...
Indiana Jones has his pilot license, come on.
But, like, the group that she's with, like, we never get anything on them. It's just, like, this random shot of her with some, like, kind of militia-looking guys. It's, like...
We don't know anything about them at all.
Special forces?
No idea. Could be. Might not be. We don't know. She found them on Facebook. Like, they're just there and they're gone so quick that I could not care. about their existence.
Yeah, it's just so bad.
It is.
But, surprise, surprise, Powell, a lawyer. And is there just, so is Alex now, I guess?
Sure. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I love that he is still not doing anything as said lawyer. Like, he's just bumming around.
Yeah, this is the scene where everyone's like pulling their weight to get this temple to fall down, and he's just kind of lounging, chilling.
Yeah, which I do like. This is kind of funny because it's not just him standing off to the side reading or anything. He is full on fainting couch style lounging.
Yeah.
He's got a little umbrella and like a little drinky drink.
It feels very Victorian explorer of like, yes, I'll be the big name explorer while the locals do the work for me.
Yeah, the locals...
Show me the places you already know about, and I'll say I discovered it.
That is 100% what this feels like, and it is hilarious.
Yeah, which we also get some bits of Lara Croft with... This is the first equipping montage where it's very focused around her waist, on her chest.
And also the way everything, like, the noises that, like, clips together, like, it goes...
Yeah.
Like, it's so over the top. It's so clearly directed at, like, look at the movie being a video game.
Ooh, she's so rough and rugged, she'll drive a Jeep through the jungle on a road.
Which she immediately drives it through a puddle.
Yeah, you gotta. You have to. I think they even do that in Jurassic Park.
That's true.
That's how you know you're in the tropics and you're on an adventure. Your vehicle must go through some type of standing water.
That's true. That is a good point. It is in contract.
Yes. But also, like, we also get some parallel shots mixed with the space shots again.
I'm not gonna lie, the space shots now, like, the first time I was like, oh, those are kind of cool. But because it's, like, almost the exact same shot that they use every single time,
yeah,
it kind of feels like some kid's PowerPoint.
Yeah, like, and on top of that, you've got a fucking clock. Are you guys too dumb to read or understand that this is a countdown clock and that, okay, the planets are aligning on this thing?
I'm not gonna lie, especially since, like, she only really actually looks at the planets at the very beginning, and even then it's not really, like, depicted that she's actively looking at them or keeping track. It would be nice if she had, like, a physical, like, if there was a physical counting down clock somewhere, to be like, oh, well, we made this digital representation of how long we have until it happens.
Yeah.
Like, some way other than, like, one planet slightly shifting to the left.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't really do anything for it at all. And on top of that, like, this whole scene, we get, like, little bits where we're finding out a little bit of the backstory of Laura that could have been done when she first met James Bond. Yes. Where he's like, oh, I do it all for money. She just does it for glory. It's just, it belongs in a museum bit. Just kind of randomly thrown in there to set her apart of, okay, she's adventuring now. Like, they do fuck all to really set her up as a character in the beginning and have to throw little tidbits here and there.
I agree. It, for some reason, feels rushed, despite the fact that we had all of that, like, empty nonsense at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, she's guided by butterflies and children throughout this movie. Like,
Okay. I am all for a weird ghost child. Please reference Mad Max. However, I don't fully understand this weird ghost child. Is this meant to be her as a young soul? Is this like a random ghost child?
I don't know.
Who is this?
Because, see, that's the thing. They could have they could have done that and explained it when she does, surprise, surprise, get the triangle of light.
Yeah, well,
like, they could have done that where, like, she goes back in time and guides her, but it still doesn't explain the stupid ass butterflies.
No.
Like,
it also doesn't explain the flower that she is now going to find literally all over the world.
And here's what it feels like is what it is. The butterflies feel like a guiding point in, like, a game.
I agree.
Like, that's supposed to, like, give off the hint of, like, here's where you're supposed to go,
twinkle,
by the way. Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not super mad about the butterflies. I do think it would have been more appropriate if there had been, like, bats going home to roost.
Yeah.
That would have made more physical sense, but, like, I'm not terribly mad about the butterflies. I'm not even super mad about the idea of a recurring flower that, like, means something to her.
Yeah.
Is like a symbol of her and her dad or memories or whatever. The fact that she just keeps finding said flower on the ground does bother me because that just doesn't make sense. Flowers don't do that.
No.
Like, you can't find the same flower all over the world, just on the ground.
I think it's supposed to show that it's leading to the hint that her dad was part of the Illuminati.
Yeah, but
because he's already been here, he's picked the flowers.
I could be down for that if the flower was, like, physically placed somewhere. Like, oh, the little girl has it.
Yeah,
or later on, it's hanging from a tent or something.
Yeah, worked into something better instead of like, it's there.
Yeah, her dad's going around, wild gardening amidst his adventure, and that's why he's dead, is because he spent all this time gardening halfway through his adventure.
Which, honestly, the bad guys did a horrible job, like, planning anything, because, like, them opening the temple, like, they didn't do a quick look-see around to see if there was an easier way to get in.
They didn't even send, like, one guy to do a little quick jog to, like, check to make sure this was the front door.
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, it's cool a little bit about this part of the movie, though. The gate that they open up is actually a funeral gate where they shot in Cambodia. It needed to be exercised beforehand.
I mean, that is cool.
So,
but, like, I agree. Like, from a logic standpoint, and, like, this does add into, like, the whole, like, we couldn't have done this project earlier, because, like, granted, I understand that, like, we have to put the puzzle piece in at the certain time. We couldn't have had the door open beforehand, though. No. I feel like that would have been helpful.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly the part, because now we learn that they have 5,000 years before they can do it again. And here's the thing. Mm-hmm. So, last time this would have happened, being conservative, saying this movie took place in 2000 or 2001.
Sure.
The last time this event would have happened would have been in 3000 BC. No one did any of their fucking research on how short the human timeline is at this point.
No, I was going to say that none of this would have been made by this point.
Yeah. No, exactly. The temple that most likely they would have been at wouldn't have been there. Stonehenge version 1 was in construction. Mm-hmm. We're talking like old wood Stonehenge, not the Stonehenge we know now. The Great Pyramids of Giza had not even been built.
Yeah.
And Cambodia's earliest temple, Angkor Wat, which we do see later, was built in the 12th century. No one gave a fuck about any of the details. They're just like, that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. We're going to use it all over the place.
Which is very upsetting, especially because, once again, someone claimed that they did a shit ton of research for this movie. Obviously, you didn't do any basic math. We don't need 5,000 years. Like, yes, that's a big number. It's scary, but, like, maybe bring it down to, like, 500.
Yeah.
Every 500 years. That's a long time. None of you are going to be alive. But I can at least believe that there is a clock that has somehow got this device in it, 500-year gap. That reads a little bit better. There's still problems in it, but it could be worked in.
I mean, we're talking like we're in the Stone Age the last time this shit was figured out, and they made this super elaborate clock. We don't even have aliens in this movie.
We don't have metalwork yet.
Yeah, if you threw aliens in the movie, then okay, maybe I'd believe it.
I like, though, that I'm sure the excuse used was, well, they have control over time. But that also doesn't fix anything, because we don't use the time thing in that sort of way.
Because don't they also explain that, like, they used it once, and then determined that no man should have that power and broke it.
Yes. So why are we now able to, like, just undo all that? This is bad logic.
Aliens
would have made more sense.
Yeah, this is the one time so far that aliens would have made this movie better.
I agree. Yeah,
just a little bit.
Like, not a lot. Like, they don't need to actually be in it, but like an exploratory of aliens would have worked.
And even now, it's kind of puzzle time, which
I agree.
I
don't care about this puzzle at all.
Like, I get they're trying to have like a cool action part, but one, it's a device that doesn't work unless a person's riding it. Like, if you guys wanted to I understand trying to keep something sacred and safe, but if you're trying to get this thing back at some point,
you need to be able to, like, use instructions.
And also, their trap is some magical mercury-like fluid that animates statues.
I don't understand. I don't super care, because it does feel video gamey, and, like, the graphics on it aren't that bad.
No, they're pretty decent for like a 2001 movie.
Yeah, they're not great. Like, there's definitely examples of better, but like, it's also, it doesn't burn my eyes when I look at it.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's just more action, but instead of guns, it's sword. Yeah. Big sword.
Yeah, and like, what?
The puzzle is also kind of shit, but I get that we're trying to like tie in from the game, which has puzzles.
Yeah, using the wrong keyhole. Like,
And,
I get that.
You gotta move some stuff around to get it to work.
It's good boss fight vibes, but like, are these what she's using the robot to train for? Which
It doesn't feel like it.
implies that she's come across them a few times or something like this before.
Sure, which like I could potentially believe, but instead of having us see her previous work, we just got battle training robots.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And honestly, like, I like it all minus the slow motion kill. Like,
I agree. The slow motion kill's a little overdone.
Yeah, when she kicks the fucking pill, or they call it, or yeah, the beam, whatever, the big wood block over.
Wood block is the best descriptor of that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's also convenient that they can't exist outside the temple. The one that's left over that chases her out, like, and on top of that, like, she gets out there, and instead of everyone packing up, Bond and the lawyer dude are just kind of chilling there. The lawyer's just lounging again. It's like...
Well, he's got to lounge, though. It's required. He's a lawyer. They have to. That's how you know he's a lawyer. He's lounging.
Sure.
I don't know.
And now Laura escapes to a village on boat, which, you know, Alex tried so hard to stop her.
So hard.
Yeah. Also, I was very confused by this part.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's cool that the village is in, like, the pond that's outside of Angkor Wat. Cool that they used the oldest building. But what is her interaction with, like, the monks?
I don't know. I don't understand. The thing that gets me about them is they feel like they did brief research on the actual location and the actual people, and, like, they got some work done for costuming and, like, temple base, and then they just make them magic for some reason?
Only one of them. Okay, so that scene was supposed to be more trippy, where, like, she was supposed to have an out-of-body experience, the monk was supposed to transform into her father. Again, some stuff left on the writing room floor, because they didn't have the budget to do this.
Yeah, well, it just comes across as, like, weird, and now all monks are a little weird.
Yeah, well, and she's also, like, here's the other thing. So, well, not just that, her interaction with them is weird, like, just the way she talks to the first one.
Yes.
Like, phone, telephone, do you have one?
I get that they're trying to show that she's, like, somewhat intelligent as far as, like, knowing a bit of every language, which is kind of cool, but, like, why would you have that bit in just for the monk who is a local native to not speak the local tongue?
Yeah. Also, how did she get a boat in the first place?
No idea. No clue.
Also, I do want to talk about how little fucks anyone gives about the timeline we are on.
True, there is no fucks.
Because somehow she has Powell, a lawyer's, personal cell phone, like old school, like jungle phone.
Yeah, like she's got the big chunky one, not the super big one. We're not, it's no briefcase phone, but it's a hunk.
It's a field phone.
It's a
satellite phone.
Yeah, I mean, but it's kind of small for an old satellite phone, so it's like somewhere in between those timelines.
But how does she have the number though?
No idea.
Exactly. And
no idea.
And he's getting a massage.
Good for him. I need one.
And she's meditating with the monks. You guys have a week to get the shit done. You guys have killed at least 5-6 days of this timeline.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, this is an example of procrastinators somehow getting everything done on time.
Somehow.
Because not only did we fail to start this mission until it's happening, but also, like, halfway through, everyone's like, I feel like we're running ahead of schedule. We should just take a day.
Now, we need to slow the pace of the movie just a little bit.
I disagree. I feel like we should have kept it going.
I know. I'm saying, like, what the directors would have been thinking. Like,
I agree. I think director-wise, that's exactly what they thought. Is like, okay, well, we just had this big action scene. Now we need to have a step back and, like, take a breather, get ourselves oriented. No, I don't want to be oriented, because we're about to Carmen Sandiego our way across this fucking world, and I'm not gonna really know where any of this is, because while they did label, like, Cambodia, like, very briefly, and, like, we get a brief, like, it's time to go to Cambodia. Let's go. Like, there is no other, like, street markers to explain where she is going half the time. Because she's just jungle.
Well, because one of them, the only other places we go are Venice, Italy, which they do have the title tag for that.
Yeah.
And an area that has no streets. They go to, like, Russia or some shit.
Yeah, but, like, again, for a game and movie...
Siberia, that's where they go.
For a game and movie that spends all of its time being like, she is a globe-trotting person.
Mm-hmm.
And we do, like, we could tie in, like, other stuff. We could continue the pace and keep going and, like, have her bopping from place to place to place and get into where she needs to go. No, we're just like, haha, now we're here.
We had 3 locations.
It's, honestly, and it feels weird because those 3 locations don't really have anything to do with each other, other than the story being like, and now we're going to Venice because the lawyer man is there.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And before we do that, like, the monk knows her father.
I don't understand that. I honestly feel like the monk should not be part of this.
I think it's all just, like, little tidbits to be like, oh, her father was here.
But it doesn't line up, and it's not useful enough for anyone to give a shit.
No, exactly.
Again, if we had more visual, like, a stronger visual representation of, like, the monk handing her the flower, that could have been much better than, like, weird trip monk.
Yeah, or a better story with her dad instead of the one flashback we've had to make us kind of care that he's dead.
Oh yeah, as far as we know, she's only spoken to her father one time.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a good point.
Well, we do get a very bad melty transition to Venice, which... It's
fine.
Yeah, I mean, we get some bad dialogue of, oh, but your father was hiding stuff from you. He really was part of the Illuminati. Which now he's using the daddy issues to drive her.
I don't care, though. I don't care about her dad anymore.
It's just a bad scene to try and make her seem like another badass. And
here's the other thing, too, is from where we just were, up until about the end, we are supposed to have her starting to build feeling conflicts between the love of her father and the love of strange man. Not lawyer.
This man, Alex.
Exactly, not lawyer Alex. Like, that is supposed to be, like, starting to conflict, because that is a huge turning point at the end.
Yeah.
And instead, we stop caring about Dad, and Alex, honestly, I don't know where he is or what he's doing.
Well, after the truce, it's time for Alex's shower bit, which was only added back because... Here's the thing, Alex almost was not really a part of this movie. Test audiences wanted more of him, and...
This is a good way to add it, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
This is a great scene. I don't have any complaints.
Yeah, but...
But also it doesn't do anything.
No. Well, it's to show that she's still interested, kind of. But also...
Hard not to be interested in that.
Noticeably. His shower scene is much shorter.
It is, which is very disappointing. I feel like we should have equal shower scenes.
And he decides to answer his door nude?
I would too if I had that body. I don't think you'd ever get me in pants again.
It's not as fun having it free-flying.
Maybe small pants.
Underwear.
Put Laura's outfit on him. That's the best you're gonna get.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, it's just a dumb little scene of, like, her trying to intimidate him. Like, it's not even, like, a romantic tryst scene. It's just, like...
Which is my complaint here. Like, yeah. I honestly do not care about the shower scenes. Like, it's all fun and games and just, like, it's there to, like, counter her shower scene.
And then look down at his dick and smile and walk off.
Yeah. The thing that bothers me is, like, we are supposed to be building a deep and fond love for this man who we supposedly already kind of sort of love. And then had a falling out with, and then, like, but we still kind of like him.
Yeah.
I don't get that from this at all.
No.
Like, they barely feel like they know each other.
Well, and here's why I think a lot of this doesn't work, too. Because now it's time for the rendezvous. And they say, let's go save the universe again. Which makes us feel like this is a sequel.
I 100% agree. In fact, it bothered me so bad, I had to look it up. This is the first movie adaptation. There is not another one. I even double-checked to make sure that one of the, like, writers or director hadn't done, like, a different one in a different country that just wasn't released here. No, this is it. This is the first one.
Yeah.
Why would you say that again?
It's just so dumb. But now we're on to Siberia, where...
Sure.
She's always greeting the... I mean, to be fair, she's greeting the locals politely, which we think is good, but... Again, guided by some magic child.
I need to know more about the magic child, but don't worry, there is no more. This is just magic child.
And she basically just tells her not to go there, which, if she doesn't, she's not going to save the world.
I don't understand child's logic, though, on why not to go. Because, again, I don't know who this child is.
And on top of that, like, the child disappears once she's distracted by the Russian toys that are gonna guide them into the Arctic.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Which they bring up that they're onto a meteor crash. Like, did I miss something? Where does this meteor matter?
No idea. When was this? When did the meteor hit? Why is it important? What is happening?
No. And on top of that, like, all their vehicles break down and, like, the electronics stop working because it's a dead zone. And here's the thing. So electronics usually stop working around -4 degrees Fahrenheit.
Sure.
But nah, it ain't cold that cold to not flaunt your titties out while everyone's bundled up.
Yeah, okay. If it is cold enough for electronics to stop working, not only are you not flaunting your titties, there should be no skin.
No.
Put more clothes on. All of you. Every single person on this.
They're all bundled up. They've got gloves.
Okay.
They don't have masks, though.
Even her nerd friend, who's for some reason on this trip, is not that bundled. He looks like he is mildly inconvenienced by 23-degree weather.
Yeah. And on top of that, if you know there's an electronic dead zone, why is he even brought on in the first place?
I don't know. I don't think they told him, because he's surprised when they get there.
To be fair, he's surprised that she's going to Venice earlier.
That's true. She doesn't tell him anything.
No.
Not a very good best friend.
I don't think he's the best friend. I think she's just like some pet that she finds amusement to have around.
It would have honestly made more sense if they had made him her brother.
Yeah.
That would make their relationship make more sense.
It would. It's just so bad.
Like, you have to come with me to Siberia. The butler can't babysit you tonight.
The butler probably would have been more useful in this situation.
Honestly, yeah.
But we do get to the temple, which has a dumb as hell opening contraption. You ring a bell and a wall of ice shatters.
It is by far the stupidest thing ever. It's cool, but it is dumb.
Yeah. And now it's supposed to be warm down there as well?
I doubt, but okay.
Yeah. Then we get introduced to these bullshit time storm where a dog jumps through it and comes back out alive that doesn't play into anything until like a little bit later. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, we forgot that we buried this piece of the puzzle in the clock, so we gotta figure out how we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Time storms.
Yeah, okay, the time storms are cool. The time storms don't fit with the rest of this movie's themes, though. Like, yes, time is a theme throughout the whole movie, but, like, the time storms look and act so differently than the rest of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What is this?
Oh, yeah. And on top of that, we get the first real sense of urgency in the whole movie, because now, on top of a planetary alignment, we have an eclipse happening.
I feel like all of these star nerdy people should have known that. We know when eclipses are going to happen ages before they do. It's enough time that you have time to buy stupid glasses, get an airplane trip, and an Airbnb to whichever one you want to see.
And we've also got this dumbass planetary contraption that kind of makes me think of the device from Pitch Black.
Oh, it does, yeah.
But, like, just giant and useless.
It is, in fact, useless. I like the giant planetary positioning system. It's silly, it's overly large, and it feels comical.
Yeah.
It is, however, the dumbest thing.
Yeah, because on top of that, like, it's a puzzle that you're supposed to find out where the pyramid piece is at. And it's
not a very good puzzle, though.
No, it's like, oh, wait, it's at the base of the puzzle. Or at the base of it all. It's
the worst puzzle, because, like, all of the other puzzles felt puzzly. They had, like, a little code to go with them. Mm-hmm. Like, you had to explore the temple to find the, like, missing part. There was bits to push around. This one, they just, like, hop around on them monkey style. And then they're like, oh, I figured it out. And you're like, what? How? How did you figure it out? You just looked in the correct direction.
Yep, couple minions get crushed. It's exciting.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like a puzzle.
No, it's not. Because that's the thing, it isn't.
No, this is a bad puzzle.
Yeah. And on top of that, once they get the other half already handed over to the other guys.
That's true.
And it's so bad because, like, they're under this pressure to get everything done.
Yeah.
And then he has time to give a speech.
Yes.
And...
yeah. But, okay, I will give them the bad guy speech time thing, though, because this is an action movie, and all bad guys are contractually obligated to give one bad backstory and or speech.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a backstory from him yet. He's just lounged around.
No, it's the other guy. It's the main Illuminati guy who's there
That
now.
guy, I don't care about that guy.
Yeah. The one, he's only been in one scene before.
Yes, I remember that guy now. I don't care about him, but I do understand why we need some exposition. I just don't like it.
Also, like, it's just so dumb because when he puts it together, I think it's supposed to be comedic that it doesn't work.
I kind of like that it doesn't work because, like, again, the original puzzle was so bad, I was like, surely there must be another puzzle.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is, like, on top of that, now we have the little bit more of romance between Laura and Alex and...
Again, though, I fully believe that the romance between Alex and Laura should have been building to have more of a tension between the two of them until this point.
Yeah, because when he gets a knife in his chest, I don't give a shit.
I don't either. In fact, when he's like, you have to choose between saving him and saving other stuff, I was like, why is she... I don't remember why she cares about him again.
Yeah.
Like, he was an ex, kind of quick love from what we could tell.
Yeah.
She's already seen his willy. She's good.
Yeah, she's okay with it enough.
Yeah, she's enjoyed, but she also doesn't seem to like the guy.
Yeah.
They've had like 2 words.
And the last time we saw them, or the time before that we saw them together, they were fighting.
Yeah, like, and not in like the playful bantery way, in like the I don't like you.
Exactly.
This, like, so there's no backstory being like, well, we used to be best friends and then we had this falling out, or we have disagreement on whether or not artifacts belong in private collectors versus museum. No, there's none of that. There's just existing.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, like, to solve the final puzzle, like, she finds a time storm and shoots a laser in it to show that, hey, there's a time storm here, throws the clock into it and shoots it, and then grabs a piece of the puzzle, like, her hand's not affected by this at all. That's the other thing, is when the time storm works and what it does...
Completely obscured.
Yeah, it doesn't explain anything. It's that little bullshitty thing that's there.
Yeah.
Just to... It's convenient soft magic.
It is, but it's also soft magic that doesn't exist at any other point in this movie.
No.
And this movie's long enough it could have. It could have existed elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And when they do finally connect the pieces together, like, they're running up that pyramid feels like a bad video game commercial.
I agree. The other reason why I don't like it is because apparently there were supposed to be other trippy scenes throughout this movie that all got cut. Mm-hmm. Why is this one not one of them? Yeah. This one makes the least amount of sense.
No, exactly. And immediately after that, too, like, we have the nonsensical pyramid run. She gets it, and now she's connected with Daddy, who was also doing it he explains that he was doing it to keep her safe.
I don't understand that, though.
And that...
He does not explain that well, and at this point, she has proven that, like, she's not safe anyway. Yeah. The girl sleeps with knives in her own mansion.
Yeah, no, it's just really dumb. And it's this whole thing to basically say, oh, you can't change time. Sorry, I'm dead. Sorry we missed out on your entire life.
Okay, I'm so glad you said the words, you can't change time, because I'm pretty sure that's, like, in the movie. He says, you can't change time. I've already been gone. And some bullshit, and he's like, let me go. And she does. And then she immediately uses time bullshit to save Alex.
Yeah.
That makes no sense!
No, exactly.
Why can't she save both of them? Because so far, the movie has told me I need to care about her dad, so I'm caring about her dad. The movie has only briefly mentioned Alex to me, but she cares enough about him to risk everything for him.
Yeah. No, exactly. And on top of that, like, here's the other dumb shit, too, is the lawyer.
Yes.
When time starts going back to normal and she's got the knife turned around, and his eyes are like, oh shit, like, she figured it out. It's like, how the fuck does he know this? This is the old past guy.
Yeah, he would have no idea. He would just have been magically, physics would have not worked.
Yeah.
Like that, like, he would not have had time.
No, exactly. Which, now the temple starts falling apart, and...
I don't understand, but it's fine.
Yeah, which...
It's a trope. I'm used to it now.
But I like this dumb idea of the ancient people, like, yes, we will build this place with enough stability for one solitary use 5,000 years down the line. And if it's ever used after that, tough luck.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. From a structural standpoint, the way it comes down, I don't quite understand what part of it failed.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay.
And we also get, like, some dumb flashback because the lawyer's taunting her, and he's like, I killed your daddy. And it's like, he kills him on some random mountain.
Yeah. Okay, here's the other thing, though. She has more words and interactions with Lawyer Man than she does Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, the tension between her and Lawyer Man is almost better than between her and Alex.
Yeah. And, like,
despite him supposedly being the bad guy, he doesn't do anything bad.
He's not a good bad guy either. Like,
no, he's a terrible bad guy. And like, yes, he's like, I killed your father, and she's like, I just saw my father.
He said it's okay.
Like, he said he likes being dead. He's having a good time.
Yeah. And on top of that, we have one last stupid fight scene with fisticuffs, which they chose to do it in a Street Fighter style, which is the dumbest shit I've seen. Because especially now we're kind of crossing games a bit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like, I can understand why they tried to put the puzzles in. I think most of the puzzles were bad, but Tomb Raider, for the most part, like, its main things are puzzles, like, level exploration, and then some, like, combat. But the combat's pretty janky, at least by the time this movie came out. It wasn't, like, super fluid, it wasn't, like, the reason you were picking up the game, not like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. This is weird. Why is this in the movie?
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's gonna win. I think it would have been better.
Yeah, we've only got like 5 minutes left of this movie. She has to win.
Yeah, if the knife had killed him, because she does escape in a pretty cool escape scene with the Huskies. But we immediately go back home, and she's dressed in the dress from the beginning, ladylike. And it's like, why? Because, like, and then on top of that,
why? Because she has a man that she already had and dumped? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, because then she goes to the tomb and there's flowers on the tomb and it doesn't really pause for anything or explain why they're there.
Okay, here's the other thing with the flowers, is while the flowers only show up in reference to maybe about her dad, there's no real explanation about the flowers. There's no reason why the flowers represent her father. Or the magic flowers.
Oh no, they explain it a little bit. It's in the dream sequence, when the only dream sequence where, like, I think her dad gives her it or something.
Yeah, it's
doesn't mean anything.
No, it's weak.
Yeah,
it's real weak.
Because how does this movie end? All that reminiscing, all that sad moment, or it's supposed to have a time to breathe? Nope, it's time to fight the fucking stereo again.
Makes no sense. I don't understand. This movie did nothing. This movie managed to do a lot of stuff and achieve nothing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, I mean, that's the thing with, like, Tomb Raider. So, what they wanted to create was a combination between Bond and Indiana Jones. And honestly, I'm not sure they succeeded in my idea at all. Like, I think really a lot of it still feels like Indiana Jones, just with a little bit more modern action and a woman.
I will disagree with you on the feeling like Indiana Jones part. I think visually and stylistically, they did manage to hit a balance between Bond and Indiana Jones. I think story-wise, Indiana Jones's story and timing and dialogue work so much better because you see Indiana Jones do stuff. Mm-hmm. There is consequences to all of his actions. This isn't his first big adventure. You know that from the beginning because instead of fighting fake battle bots in his mansion, he's actually out,
fighting Nazis.
Tomb raiding. Yeah, he's out tomb raiding when you first meet him. Mm-hmm. Like, he gets character built into him via his dialogue with these random characters. And Tomb Raider has random characters, but Lara Croft doesn't really have dialogue. Mm-hmm. She barely talks in this movie. Yeah. And the bit she does talk is, like, them not sure how to write her or what type of dialogue to give her. She's not really, like, when she talks, she's not terribly confident in herself, or she's overly confident in herself, but not in a useful way. She doesn't really talk with any of her, like, friends or coworkers, or colleagues. She barely interacts with the people in her own home. The other thing that's annoying, and why Bond is more successful in, like, a storytelling point, Bond also doesn't really talk in his movie, but where Bond succeeds is Bond uses his environment and his tools and his body language to tell the story. This one's jerky. It flows you all over the place. You barely can keep track of who you are and where you are. Mm-hmm. Bond makes it very seamless and smooth, like, we are now in England, we are now in Russia. Like, it is very smooth and seamless, and there's a reason for going there. Like, the trail of breadcrumbs for the, like, plot is clear and laid out and logical.
Okay.
Not in Lara Croft. It's kind of just all over the place.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think part of the issue, too, is that they focus a little too heavy on trying to make her too sexy.
I agree to an extent. I do think that was, I think dialogue-wise, what held her back. Mm-hmm. I don't think the scenes of her being sexy are necessarily a problem.
No.
Yes, they're a bit much, and like I'm glad we cut them down, because otherwise the movie would be too damn long. But like, physically she is so confident and so sexy, and then when she opens her mouth, she doesn't sound like a real person. Yeah. Well, and
what I'm getting at is what I think it is not that the sexy scenes are an issue, obviously, but it feels like they were such a focus of the movie that they didn't figure out how to make the rest of the movie is the issue.
That's 100% I agree, and I think it even like boils down to her interactions with other characters, even the ones that she's supposed to be attracted to. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even know if they hold hands, for Christ's sakes. Like, but we get boob. Like, why can't we have some development here? The other thing that I think honestly weakens the story too much is there is so much emphasis on one specific flashback with her and her father. Mm-hmm. There is no other development between her and her father. Yeah. Yet this is the only person who raised her because her mom's dead. Yeah. And has since she was a, itty-bitty baby.
Actually, we don't even know if she has a mom.
We kind of do. The very, very first sentence with her and her dad is her handing back a locket to her dad with her mom's picture, being like, I wish I could remember her. Oh, and he's like, she loved you so much, she's dead. Like...
Sorry, poor orphan girl. Poor super rich orphan girl, well... At least she's not crippled like in the Christmas Prince movie.
Oh, yeah, no, we're not a cripple in the Christmas Prince. But, like, this is the man who not only, like, raised her, but, like, was the sole parent. And she has a singular memory of him.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's hitting on exactly what the issue with this movie is that they've got like 4 or 5 plot lines that never get fully flushed out, because they did say that the core of the movie is supposed to be a father-daughter movie.
I'd be down for that. Then get rid of Alex.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't need to be there. He doesn't do anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for a handsome man, and especially this one, but he really doesn't do anything. Make
the lawyer kind of the love interest, where like it's a sexy, flirty...
They had better tension than her and Alex, because he's constantly insulting her. Yeah. Alex honestly doesn't do shit other than look pretty.
Yeah, just a bit.
And we already have a beautiful person. We don't need a second one, really.
Yeah, but even though we bitch about it, I think Tomb Raider is still an important movie, at least in video game adaptations, because despite its many, many flaws...
Yeah, there's a lot.
Tomb Raider took itself just that little bit more serious than like everything else, and it felt like they were trying to make a proper film compared to most of what came before.
Sure.
I will say Double Dragon feels like it's trying to be a proper film, but it just kind of loses itself a little bit here and there.
And I would agree. I think in the context of video game to movie adaptations, this is a huge step forward. Mm-hmm. Like, this movie did take itself seriously. Granted, it didn't do well, but like it did take itself seriously.
Yeah.
It wasn't no Mario movie.
No, it did have serious plot themes and points that if those were the focus of the movie, it could have been well.
I agree. And granted, most of my complaint is honestly just down to lazy writing and bad editing.
Yes.
Like, two things that editing wise, we know what happened there. This movie was originally going to be longer, and while some of the scenes were cut that we did not need, a lot of it came down to push from way up high of saying, like, we want this, we don't want that. So they had to rework it. That stuff happens, and that's, I mean, this is a casualty of it, but we know that sort of thing happens. But at the same time, your writing needs to be good enough that if I am missing a chunk, yeah, I might miss it, but it's not going to shatter my world.
No. And it definitely is a step in the right direction. I don't think we've seen that full-on step. I think Detective Pikachu was a good step, but I think we still have a long way to go to hit that niche. Because, honestly, we like the Sonic movie, but it's still a kid's movie at its core.
I think the closest thing we've gotten to a superior adaptation isn't a movie. And we've talked about this before where, like, some stuff just doesn't translate into a movie well. Lara Croft, thankfully, kind of did, because they made up a plot. They didn't really pick one from any of the existing games. But One Piece so far is our best adaptation. It's not even a game. It's an anime.
I haven't seen it yet.
Disappointment, it's fantastic. But yeah, no, it's not a game, it's an anime, so we already had plot and character development and the writing already written for us. Writing for a game and writing for a movie are two very different things. And especially an older game where you had the freedom to write an entire backstory and plot in a little booklet and just shove it in with the disc and expected people to read it.
Instead, we're looking for sexy in action.
Yeah, and granted, we've had some more fan-favorite adaptations recently, like Castlevania. Again, though, TV series, which fans seem to be liking better, gives you time to flesh out their favorite characters. Movies are hard to do with that. You have a limited time, and especially for an action film, action takes up a lot of space and time in a movie run.
No, yeah. No, exactly. And Chris, I do kind of want to ask you one last question at the end here.
Sure.
Just get a female's perspective on this. Do you think Tomb Raider, with its attempt to create a strong female character, do you think it still stands up by today's standards?
In a way, yes. And this is something that I thought was interesting. The director mentioned that he was shocked that Tomb Raider wasn't more popular with women because he saw Lara Croft as the epitome of, like, a woman role model in games, and he thought this movie was going to be, like, the breaking point of having strong female leads in summer blockbusters and actions. This movie itself is the writing, like the plot, that's why this isn't good. Not because of Angelina Jolie's acting, or even Lara Croft the character in general. But one of the quotes I found from him, he was talking about how, like, 10 years later, he's, like, looking at all these movies where women are the leads, but they're things that, like, people didn't love, like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, again, came down to bad writing. Not necessarily acting, not necessarily the character. People love Wonder Woman. We have for a really long time. People love Lara Croft, including women. We have for a long time. It's shitty writing that we don't like. Yeah.
And I think that's part of it, too, is just, at least from my standpoint, I see by 2000 standards, strong, independent, rich woman.
I agree. I think by 2000 standards, she is stellar.
Yeah.
By nowadays standards, there's some left to be desired.
A little bit more brains instead of brawn, I guess, that they try.
But I will give them this. Where the writing was bad for plot, the writing for Laura's character was pretty good. They did give her some brain. She is somewhat competent.
Yeah, she's not, I'm not saying she's a dumb ditzy blonde.
No.
It just, there's some bit, and again, it's down to the writing that she comes across a little dumb.
Yeah, no, I agree. And she also doesn't come across overly superhuman for an action film. Like, she can't cook for herself. That's fine. That's a great character flaw to put in a character. I don't care. Is she, like, my favorite representation of women? No. I think there's directors who purposefully do women in their movies much better. But overall, like, that is a hard thing to find, like, the happy, perfect balance. Because some people's sexy and empowerment is other people's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I personally, like, in recent times, I finally got around to watching Atomic Blonde.
Yes, solid choice.
I think that, for me, was one of the best ways of representing a woman in film, or in an action movie like that.
Yeah.
Specifically because she was fighting in a way that men couldn't work with. Like, she can't go up against 20 big 6-foot size guys, so she's fighting it in her way. She doesn't have superpowers like Black Widow.
Sure.
But she's fighting in a way that feels realistic and straightforward. Very similar Lady Snowblood.
Yes, Lady Snowblood is an excellent example.
Just using the female charm instead of trying to make women men or behave like the stereotypical men in a movie.
Sure.
Embrace the flaws that you have and use your positives as that driving spot.
I agree, and I think for especially specifically action films, it is very hard to write a woman character that is going to be well received across the board. For me, the epitome of an action woman would be Kill Bill. by far my favorite. I think it's a great representation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I totally understand why some people don't like her as a representation. They think her story plot is too driven on certain points that they think they...
Too centered around a man.
Yeah, exactly. Where for other people, like, that representation looks different.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that, like, the more we get access to that representation, people will have choices as what's their favorite, like, character to go with.
Yeah.
I still think Lara Croft's a great, like, option. I just don't think this movie is the best option.
No.
I would love to see a reboot of the Lara Croft, like, series. I think we have reached a point where, like, we have not just the talent to work on it, but also, like, there's clearly a passion of people who are into games who are also into movies.
Yep.
We know it will make money, even if it's not that good. I mean, this movie made money, and it was terribly received.
But also fan-loved.
Yeah, and, like, we also know that if you get the right people on board with being your cast and crew, it will significantly improve how fans receive it, Witcher being a great example. Like, a lot of people were not fans of Henry Cavill originally. Now people are diehard fans and will watch anything the man's in.
And they've also learned that he's an actual nerd, too.
Exactly, and once the cast and crew and him came out and talked about it, people who would never have touched Witcher a day in their life are now into it.
He grimes up good.
He does grime up good, and I believe Lara Croft could also grime up real good.
They kind of did it with the more recent remake.
I agree. I think while I don't like that
reboot.
Yeah, while that reboot's rough in a lot of ways, it has some advancements over this. I think we just got to keep trying with Lara Croft until we finally get the right group of people to work on it.
Exactly. So, Chris, on a good, bad, weird scale, how do you rate this movie?
Oh, this is just bad. But I liked it.
I personally think it's good, bad.
Sure.
Just because there are good parts to it. And that the fact that it's entertaining.
It is.
But it's a bad movie overall.
I agree. It's a bad movie, but I did enjoy watching it. And I will watch it again.
Yes. It is. It's that perfect line where it's at that peak where it's interesting from a history standpoint, in my opinion. So.
I agree. And as far as action movies go, it hits all of the points. It's dumb, it's explosions, there's lots of stuff happening all the time, and you don't really need to worry about the plot if you don't want.
No.
But that's also why it's not stellar.
No, exactly. So, would you recommend this movie, Chris?
Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. To everyone, no, obviously. As with all movies, there's gonna be a place and time for who wants to watch it, but I'm not gonna lie, if this is on TV, I'm gonna leave it on.
I'm on the fence if I'd even recommend it. It's fun, but I don't think it's a worthwhile watch. Like,
you
really.
guys are gonna have a Lara Croft movie watch night? You watch all three of them.
True, we could. I think we'd rather watch some other stuff.
I understand.
So now it comes to the 3 Degrees of Takashi Miike.
This one I feel like might be harder.
So, in year 5 of the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast, we decided to do a game. For those unfamiliar, here are the rules. 3 degrees to get to Takashi Miike. Has to be a movie connection. I can't use the same connection, i.e. movie, actor, writer, or director twice. As well, I will try to make the plot thematic and tie in if applicable.
Sure.
And if I win, full month of Miike movies. If Chris wins, an entire month of Barbie.
I have my fingers crossed, but you have won so far. So, tell me, how did you do it?
So, this one was tad difficult. And because a lot of them were small 2 or 3 degrees, I couldn't find a way to connect Hostel or The Last Life in the Universe. I figured one out.
Okay.
But I'm not going to count it.
Oh.
This is the first one where I don't think it works. I was able to connect Noah Taylor, the nerd, to Neighbor Number 13, and it's a stretch because they both kind of involve time travel, but they're not a strong thematic time to Tomb Raider enough to really work it. So, my first loss of
womp womp.
the 3 Degrees of Takashi Miike.
Finally, after all this time.
Yeah, it's taken, 10, 15 episodes?
You've gotten really impressive with it, I'm not gonna lie.
I had to get creative. This one just, it came back down to, how Anaconda was, where I couldn't, like, I had a hard time connecting.
Sure.
Because they're big names now, so, like, their connections are always going to be, like, 2 or 3 people. And
yeah, there's always going to be a bottleneck somewhere.
Yeah, so I lose this one.
Womp womp.
Yeah, but anywho, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the good, the bad, and the weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.